In 1938, a retired coal miner in West Virginia lived on $3 a week for groceries. He ate the exact same stew every night for 4 years. His doctor swore his blood work was better than men half his age. That meal is number 4 on this list. Number 18. Costs less than 40 cents. Number 9 was invented by a widow who could not stand long enough to cook. These meals were designed for pure survival. They fed people eating alone at kitchen tables that used to seat 6. Hit that subscribe button. Number 25. Thin potato and onion stew. Hot water, potatoes, 1 onion, maybe a pinch of salt. You sliced the potatoes so thin they nearly vanished into the broth, giving the water a heavy, cloudy texture that tricked the stomach into feeling full. In 1932, when bread lines stretched around city blocks from New York to Boston, potatoes cost about 2 cents a pound. You bought them bruised, and you bought them dusty. Grandma peeled them at the kitchen table while the radio crackled with President Franklin Roosevelt delivering another fireside chat. She boiled the skins separately for vitamins. You ate it hot from a chipped porcelain bowl, blowing on the surface to cool it down. It tasted like earth and survival. Today, upscale urban bistros puree this exact combination, call it potage parmentier, and charge $18 a bowl. Your grandmother just called it Tuesday night supper. Number 24. Cabbage soup. 1 head of cabbage, splash of vinegar, a spoonful of bacon grease saved in a tin can beside the stove. You hacked the cabbage into rough wedges and dropped them into boiling water. The vinegar broke down the tough fibers, while the grease coated the top, trapping the heat and making the broth taste like meat even when there was none, within 50 miles. This stretched a Sunday paycheck to Friday. It smelled harsh, filling the tiny suburban American kitchen with a sulfurous steam that lingered for days. Coming inside from the snow, that smell meant you were safe from going to bed hungry. Modern nutritionists call it a gut-healing superfood diet. The women of 1935 called it making something out of absolute nothing. Number 23. Gravy soup, flour, drippings, boiling water. You browned flour in a dry skillet until it smelled like roasted nuts. Then you stirred in whatever fat you had left over from the weekend, scraping the wooden spoon along the bottom until it formed a thick paste. Finally, you poured in the water. It thickened immediately into a dark, heavy liquid that coated your ribs and warmed your chest. You did not chew this soup. You drank it slowly, making it last. Bread was a luxury, so if you had a stale crust, you dragged it through the bottom to get every last drop. Men who worked 12 hours in the rail yards ate this in silence, grateful for the heat. It was a masterclass in culinary illusion. Number 22. Bean pottage. Dried navy beans. A handful of coarse cornmeal. The beans had to soak overnight in a tin bucket. If forgotten, dinner was ruined. You boiled them low and slow for 6 hours on the back burner, mashing a few against the side of the pot to thicken the cooking water. You threw in cornmeal last. It swelled up, absorbing the starchy bean liquid and turning the whole pot into a dense, heavy porridge. You ate it with a tin spoon, the gritty texture of the cornmeal contrasting with the soft, broken beans. It sat heavy in your stomach, a deliberate weight that convinced your brain you had eaten a feast. Today, restaurants serve deconstructed bean puree on artisanal toast. Back then, it was just the only way to silence a growling stomach. Number 21. Carrot and water stew. Carrots pulled straight from the frozen ground. Hot water. Pepper. This was the meal of last resort. When the root cellar was nearly empty and payday was still a rumor, you washed the carrots but never peeled them. The skin held the nutrients and the flavor. You boiled them until they were soft enough to mash with the back of a fork. The water turned a pale, sweet orange. You drank the broth first, saving the sweet, mushy carrots for last to pretend it was a dessert. Families sat around the table under a single dim electric bulb, sharing a pot of orange water and acting like it was enough. You did not complain about it at all. You just sat down and ate it in absolute silence. Now, cold-pressed carrot juice sells for $10 a bottle to health enthusiasts. Your grandfather drank it because the alternative was starving. Pattern break number 1. Here is the secret the food corporation spent millions trying to make you forget. In the 1950s, American food companies launched aggressive advertising campaigns with a single, calculated goal. They wanted to make you ashamed. They deliberately framed cooking from scraps and leftovers as lower-class behavior. They spent fortunes showing you the new, idealized American housewife. She stood in a spotless suburban kitchen. She did not scrape pots or boil bones. She smiled and opened a shiny can of Campbell's soup. They sold you expensive, processed cans and convinced you it was progress. In doing so, they erased the sweat, tears, and absolute genius of Appalachian mothers, who kept generations alive on almost nothing. They stole our history to boost their profit margins. Number 20. Bone scrap stew. Water. Vegetable ends. Discarded bones. You did not buy these bones. You went to the local butcher and asked for the scraps he planned to throw to the dogs. You carried them home wrapped in brown butcher paper. You threw them in an iron pot with water and let it simmer on the back of the stove all day. The heat slowly pulled the marrow and the fat from deep inside the bone, turning clear water into a rich, cloudy broth. You threw in celery leaves, carrot tops, and potato peels, things modern cooks toss in the trash. It bubbled thick and smelled like a Sunday roast. This was arithmetic. This was a mother turning literal garbage into a hot meal for 6 hungry children. Number 19. Stale bread stew. Rock-hard bread. Boiling water. Salt. When a loaf of bread went stale, you did not throw it to the birds. You guarded it. You let it dry until it felt like a brick. When the cupboards were completely bare, you broke that bread into pieces and dropped it into a pot of boiling water. The bread absorbed the liquid, breaking down into a thick, savory porridge. It coated the stomach like wet cement. It killed the hunger pangs immediately. A meal built entirely out of desperation. Today, culinary magazines call it papa al pomodoro, when you add tomatoes, and they praise its rustic charm. Back then, it was just the only thing standing between a family and starvation. Number 18. Burnt flour stew. Flour. Water. A pinch of salt. Nothing else. You heated a dry cast iron skillet until it smoked. You tossed in a handful of flour and stirred it constantly until it turned the color of an old penny. The burning flour gave off a nutty, almost meaty scent that tricked the brain. You slowly whisked in water, creating a thick, dark brown gravy. You ate it from a bowl with a spoon. No meat, no vegetables, just the illusion of a hearty meal. Men who spent 10 hours working the assembly lines in Ohio came home to this. It tasted like ash and grit, but it provided the pure calories, needed to wake up and do it all over again the next day. Number 17. Onion skin broth. Water. The papery skins of yellow onions. You never threw away an onion skin. You kept them in a glass jar by the sink. When the jar was full, you boiled them. The fragile, dry skins dissolved, dyeing the water a deep, rich mahogany. It looked exactly like beef broth. It tasted earthy and warm. You served it in mugs. You told the children it was a special tea. You lied to them because the truth was too heavy for a child to carry. You sat by the window, watching the street lamps flicker on, sipping hot onion water and hoping tomorrow would bring a miracle. Number 16. Mulligan stew. Water. Foraged scraps. Whatever anyone could carry. In 1932, inside the sprawling, desperate shantytowns called Hoovervilles, men who had lost absolutely everything lived in tents of tar paper. They rode the freight trains looking for work. When they camped, they practiced hobo culture. One man brought a stolen potato. Another brought a handful of withered beans. Another found an old onion. They threw it all into a single tin bucket over a wood fire. They sat around the flames, sharing a meal built from collective poverty. The stew boiled until everything melted into a soft, indistinct mush. It required almost no chewing. Older men with missing teeth and no money for a dentist just swallowed it whole. They ate slowly. They scraped the bottom of the tin cans until they shined. Number 15. Water-whipped potatoes. Old bruised potatoes. Boiling water. A pinch of salt. This was not a side dish. This was the entire meal. You boiled the potatoes until they began to dissolve. then whipped them with hot water instead of milk or butter. It created a warm, bland paste. Many seniors living alone ate this sitting in a rocking chair by a cold fireplace. Their gums ached constantly. Dental care was a luxury strictly for the rich. They quietly changed how they cooked, just to survive their own failing bodies. They dragged a dull spoon through the white mush, eating dinner in an empty room that used to hold a bustling family of 6. They swallowed without chewing. They wiped the bowl perfectly clean. It was the food of lonely, silent survival. Number 14, salt pork broth. 1 small piece of salted pork fat, hot water, black pepper. You did not eat the meat. You boiled the fat until the water turned a cloudy white, then you removed the pork and saved it for tomorrow. The family drank the salty, greasy water. There was a profound silence at the table when a father returned from the Detroit auto plants holding a pink slip. No words were spoken. The slip sat folded in his pocket. He brought the chipped bowl to his lips and drank the hot grease. The house was dead quiet. The children knew better than to ask for more. You learned early that hunger was just a heavy stone you carried in your stomach. Number 13, cracker stew. Hardtack or stale soda crackers. Warm water. You dropped the dry, brittle crackers into the water and watched them swell. They turned from hard wafers into a gelatinous mass. For an old widow living alone on a forgotten suburban street, this was a Tuesday supper. She held the warm bowl in both hands to ease the arthritis in her fingers. She pressed the soggy crackers against the roof of her mouth with her tongue. No chewing needed. The water tasted vaguely of salt and flour. It took exactly 10 minutes to prepare and 10 minutes to eat. After that, there was nothing left to do but go to sleep and hope the morning brought a distraction from the empty pantry. Number 12, cabbage core stew. The tough center of a cabbage. Tap water. You chopped the hard core that everyone else threw away. You boiled it until the bitter smell filled the kitchen. It remained tough, requiring slow, deliberate jaw movements. Chewing it tricked the mind into feeling full. A family sat around the wooden table in complete silence, grinding their teeth through the fibrous chunks. The father avoided looking at his children. The mother carefully divided the greenish water into equal, meager portions. The sound of jaws working and spoons hitting ceramic plates echoed in the tiny house. This was not cooking. This was enduring. Pattern break number 2. Today, modern science has finally caught up to your grandmother. Nutritionists recently analyzed those old pots of slow-boiled scraps and animal fat. It turns out, cooking bones on a low simmer for 12 hours releases massive amounts of collagen, minerals, and probiotics. This exact chemical process is what helped children during the Great Depression survive brutal American winters without severe malnutrition. Today, you walk into a brightly lit Whole Foods and pay $15 for a small glass jar labeled artisanal bone broth. They sell it to you as a premium health supplement. But back in the Midwest, bubbling inside a blackened cast iron pot, it was just supper. Your grandmother was not a poor cook. She was an absolute genius. Number 11, lard soup. A scoop of pure pork lard. Flour. Boiling water. You melted the white fat in a skillet until it popped, then whisked in flour until it turned a deep gold. You poured in water, watching it instantly seize into a thick, glossy gravy. There was no meat, but the rich fat coated the throat and filled the stomach with dense calories. In 1935, a family in Illinois could survive a blizzard on this single pot. You ate it hot. It tasted like roasted pork. It kept the shivering away when the coal furnace ran empty. Number 10, vinegar broth. Hot water. A splash of apple cider vinegar. A heel of stale bread. When the lard ran out and the bones were gone, you boiled water and added vinegar. The sharp acid tricked the tongue into thinking it was tasting something complex. You dropped the bread into the sour water, watching it expand into a soggy mass. You ate it slowly. The vinegar made your mouth water, giving the illusion of a grand feast. Modern dietitians praise apple cider vinegar for digestion and charge a premium for it. Your grandfather drank it simply because the sharp sting distracted him from the constant ache in his empty gut. Number 9, teacup broth. A pat of butter, salt, hot water poured straight from a kettle. This was the meal invented by a widow who could not stand long enough to cook. She sat heavily in a wooden dining chair, placed a small lump of butter in a porcelain teacup, and poured boiling water directly over it. She stirred it with a silver spoon until the water turned a cloudy yellow. She sipped it like tea. It delivered fat and warmth directly to the bloodstream, without requiring a stove or a heavy pot to wash. It was the ultimate intersection of pure exhaustion and survival. Number 8. Turnip water stew. The tough green tops of turnips. Water. A pinch of salt. You did not buy the greens. You asked the grocer for the tops he chopped off and planned to throw away. You boiled them down for hours until the water turned a murky, dark green. You discarded the bitter, stringy leaves and drank only the water. It was incredibly rich in iron and vitamins. Children drank this hot green liquid from tin cups before walking 3 miles to school in the snow. It tasted bitter. It tasted like poverty, but it kept your heart beating. Number 7. Ration book soup. Hot water. A single beef bone. 2 carrots. In 1943, the United States government issued heavy ration books to every family. The rules were absolute. You were strictly limited on the exact amount of beef and butter you could buy, regardless of how much money you had. Women who spent 10 grueling hours building airplanes in loud, dangerous munitions factories came home with aching backs and grease-stained hands. They stood at the kitchen counter and boiled that single bone in a massive pot of water to create the illusion of abundance. They ladled it out carefully. The bowls for the children and the men held the soft carrots and the rare scraps of meat. The mother took a bowl of clear, thin water for herself. She always told her children she just preferred the broth. You grew up, looked back, and realized it was the most beautiful lie ever told. Number 6. Drop dumpling water stew. Boiling water, flour, a pinch of salt. You mixed the flour and water into a sticky paste in a glass bowl. You brought a pot of plain, salted water to a rolling boil. Then, using a tiny metal spoon, you dropped jagged lumps of the dough directly into the pot. They bobbed to the surface, swelling up and looking exactly like pale chunks of chicken. It was a visual trick designed to make a watery bowl feel like a hearty, solid dinner. The kids chewed the dense, heavy dumplings. The mother watched her family eat, her own stomach aching, finding nourishment strictly in the fact that her children were not crying. This was not a recipe. It was an act of profound, silent sacrifice. Number 5. Bare corncob broth. Water. Stripped corn cobs. When you ate corn on the cob, the meal was not actually over. You took the naked, scraped cobs and threw them directly into a pot of boiling water. You let them simmer for 2 hours. The hard cobs slowly released a sweet, milky starch that turned the water cloudy and fragrant. It smelled exactly like a rich summer harvest. You drank it hot from a tin cup. It was a phantom meal. The flavor of food without the physical substance. If there were 8 mouths to feed, you just added more water to the pot. You never complained. You drank your sweet water, put your cup in the sink, and pretended you were entirely full. Number 4. The $3 stew. Pinto beans. Canned crushed tomatoes. Half a yellow onion. This is the meal we talked about at the very beginning. In 1938, that retired coal miner in West Virginia stretched his $3 weekly grocery budget with this exact pot. He soaked the pinto beans overnight, boiled them down with the chopped onion, and poured in the cheap tin of crushed tomatoes. He stirred it slow with a wooden spoon until it became a thick red paste. He ate 1 bowl every single night for 4 years straight. He did not vary the routine. He did not buy treats. His doctor looked at his blood work and was completely baffled by how a man surviving on poverty rations possessed the heart health of a young athlete. The secret was the absolute lack of processed sugar and the relentless, grinding routine of survival. Number 3. Ditch weed stew. Water. Foraged roadside weeds. A pinch of dirt-stained salt. That was it. In the 1930s, the American South and Midwest were completely annihilated by the Dust Bowl. The sky literally turned black at noon. The wind howled constantly. It drove fine sand through the cracks in the windows. It coated their teeth. It settled deep in their lungs. It choked the life out of the crops and buried family farms under mountains of dry, dead earth. When there was absolutely nothing left to harvest, families packed their entire lives into beat-up, rattling flatbed trucks. They joined a desperate, crawling migration out of Oklahoma. They headed west toward California, praying for a miracle. When stomachs began to cramp, they pulled over on the side of the blistering highway. They did not have pennies for roadside diners. They walked down into the dry, dusty ditches. They pulled up dandelion greens. They pulled up wild purslane. They dug out any stubborn, bitter weed that refused to die in the drought. They built small fires right there in the dirt. Some just set a heavy iron pot directly on the blazing hot hood of the truck engine. They boiled the tough leaves until they finally broke down. The water turned a harsh, cloudy green. It tasted exactly like dust. It tasted like pure desperation. You handed the hot tin cup to your child. You watched them drink. You did not cry. You swallowed your own bitter water, got back in the truck, and kept driving toward a horizon that offered absolutely no promises. Number 2, the scavenger's broth. Water, a splash of vinegar, discarded animal bones. This was not the meal of the poor. This was the meal of the absolutely destitute. You did not walk through the front door of the local butcher shop. You could not afford the humiliation of asking for scraps. You waited until the sun went down. You waited until the street was completely empty and the wind was cold. You walked around to the back alley. You dug silently through the wooden trash barrels in the dark. You searched for the heavy bones that had been scraped completely clean by the butcher's knife. The ones thrown away. You carried them home wrapped tightly in an old newspaper, terrified a neighbor might see you. Back in your tiny kitchen, you washed those bones meticulously under the cold tap. You took a heavy iron hammer. You smashed the bones on the wooden counter. You cracked them wide open to expose the dark marrow hidden inside. You dropped the shattered pieces into a pot of boiling water. You poured in the vinegar to draw out every single microscopic mineral left in the fragments. You boiled it for 2 solid days. She did not sleep. She tended the fire. She scraped the film off the top of the boiling water. The water slowly transformed into a thick, gray elixir. A mother sat by a small cot in a freezing room. She lifted her child's head. She spooned this warm gray water into the mouth of a child who was too weak to even sit up. The child swallowed. The warmth spread. The color slowly returned to their pale cheeks. The mother sat back in the dark and breathed. This was never a recipe. This was a mother going to war against death itself. She fought with a hammer. She fought with a pot. She fought with an absolute, terrifying refusal to let her family fade away. Number 1, the wish soup. Hot water, a pinch of salt, a handful of stale breadcrumbs, and a wish. That was the entire recipe. There was absolutely nothing left in the cupboards. The flour sack was shaken out. The lard tin was scraped down to the bare metal. The potato sack was nothing but dust. A mother stood in a freezing kitchen in Ohio, listening to the wind rattle the single-pane glass. She filled an iron pot with water from the tap. She set it on the stove and lit the flame. She let it reach a rolling boil. She added the salt. She took a wooden spoon and swept the tiny, hard breadcrumbs off the cutting board directly into the water. She stirred it slowly. This was not food. This was an illusion designed to keep the stomach muscles from cramping. This was a psychological trick played against the body. You poured this clear, salty liquid into bowls. You carried it to the dining table. And here is the most important part. You sat down. You did not eat in bed. You did not eat standing in the dark. You set the table. You placed the chipped ceramic bowls in the center of the worn wood. You laid out the tin spoons. You sat your children in their chairs. You sat up perfectly straight, and you ate your hot water with the profound dignity of a king attending a banquet. You blew on the water. You swallowed slowly. You closed your eyes and you made a wish that tomorrow would bring a miracle. We have completely lost this thread. Today, we live in an era of unimaginable abundance. We walk through brightly lit grocery stores stocked with 50,000 different items. We have entire aisles dedicated strictly to different flavors of processed snacks. Yet, we are spiritually starving. Right now, across the United States, Millions of older Americans are eating their dinner in complete isolation. Sociological statistics show they are sitting alone on a living room sofa. They are balancing a microwaved plastic tray on their knees. They are eating in absolute silence, bathed in the cold blue light of a television screen, miles away from a proper dining table. The kitchen table sits in the next room, covered in mail and gathering dust. It has become a relic of a forgotten time, when eating was a sacred act of human communion. Those survival meals we just counted down were never truly about the food. They were never just a trick to save pennies. They were the ultimate act of defiance. They were a way to hold on to your humanity when the entire world, the collapsing economy, and the brutal weather were actively trying to break your spirit. Cooking those scraps was a daily declaration that you were still here and you refused to fade away. Here is my challenge to you. Sometime this week, I want you to go into your kitchen, choose just one of these meals. Boil the cabbage core. Mash a bruised potato with hot water. Fry a handful of flour. Put it in a real bowl. Turn the television completely off. Leave your phone in another room. Walk over to your kitchen table. Sit down in the chair. Sit up straight. Look at the wall. Eat it slowly. Feel the heat of the water hit the back of your throat. Understand the heavy silence of an empty room. Feel exactly what it took for your bloodline to survive the brutal winters of this country long enough for you to be sitting here today. And when you are done, I want you to go down to the comments section. I want you to type out your family's history. What did your grandparents eat to survive the Depression? What did your mother cook when the factory closed down? Write down the exact ingredients. Record the memories of the smells in the kitchen. Put it in writing so it does not disappear into the void. Do not let the modern food industry erase the staggering genius of the women who kept this country alive. This knowledge belongs to all of us. They did not just survive the winter. They built the foundation of a nation with nothing but water and sheer will.